this clip, we're going to be talking about our timeline panel. So basically, our timeline panel is a visual representation of the time of our composition. In this case, there's no elements in the composition yet because the composition was created without the elements. So one of the ways to bring elements to the composition is to simply drag them in. I'm going to bring in one of these footages into the composition, and it's going to be one of these explosions. So let's go over the panel itself, and on the top left corner you can see that we have the time display, and here you'll find the frames per second rate and also the actual time of that point in your cursor. So that's pretty useful. Also, if you want to change it to the actual frame that you are in, if you want to go to frame 1, you simply hit Control and left click on that time display. It will go to time instead of frame, or time. On the right side we have a search box, and just like the search box on the projects panel, and you will be able to find any sort of layers within that composition, and within the case that you have hundreds and hundreds of layers in that composition. On the right side we have a mini flowchart. We'll talk about this one in a further video when we dive a little more into compositions and pre-compositions. This is a draft 3D. Pretty much the name itself is it will give you a draft view of your 3D render, but we'll talk about that. That's once we get to the 3D options. Right after that, we have the shy button. So basically, the shy button, what it will do is it will hide the layers that you press this shy button. So if you see that the layer now is not visible, and that's because I pressed the shy button. The shy button is active on the layer itself, which is this one, and it will become inactive once you press it again. So here the little icon is right there, but to actually hide the layers, you have to activate the shy button on all the layers. So that's the shy button. And on the right side we have a frame blending option, and here you have different options, but again we will talk about that. If you know what frame blending is, by all means then pretty much look into this a little more, but for now, if you're just starting, I'll say leave this for later, maybe when you're just practicing by yourself, and but I don't want to get you confused too much for now. On the right side we have a motion blur option switch, which is also activated once you activate the motion blur switch on the layer itself. And on the right side we have the graph editor. If you are already familiar with keyframes and how keyframes work, and if you're coming from 3D packages maybe, then you probably know what a graph editor is. If you're not, we'll leave this graph editor for its own video, because it's very, very useful, and you will, if you haven't used a graph editor before, then you might want to get as much information as possible because you want to work with this all the time. Below our graph editor we have our columns. Just on our projects panel we have some columns, and we have a few other options that we can remove or we can add. For now I'm not going to add any more columns. I just want to go over a few of them, and those are the ones that are the default ones. So pretty much the default ones, we have a hide button, which is activated by removing this one. If the video has any audio, you will have an audio option also. You have a solo button. You have a lock button, which is really useful in case you running with a lot of different layers and you don't want to make any unnecessary changes, then you go ahead and activate that. The label, of course, the label can be changed to a different color. So another options are the adjustment layer and the 3D layer, which we will talk about further, and also the parenting option. Below we have a toggle switches, or the layer modes button, And what this does is it changes from the toggle switches, which are the motion blur, frame blending, and these other ones, to the blending modes. And in the blending modes, we have, you have your add, your screen, your light, your color dodge. But that's what this will do. Now, so right at the edge down on the left side, we have three small little icons. So all these three icons give you the different options. For example, this one gives you the in and out duration and the stretch of if you want to stretch these, just by clicking a few things. So that'll be cool. If you want to remove the toggle switches or the blending modes, or you want to have them all active at the same time. But mainly the timeline is so you can scrub through your time, and maybe you just want to go slower at some point or faster. That's up to you. Or you want to go from one point to another and, just a few clicks. What you want to do here is press the spacebar button, which will activate the play button, which is also, you can also do that through the preview window, which is on the top right corner. And you have a button here so you can play or pause. So here I want to show you something really quick. Here, let me demonstrate this in a different way. I'm going to bring a different element right off the back. And you see that there's a green line where the first layer was, but now where this other layer is now, there's no green line, but only in that one frame where that viewer or time indicator is. So what that means is that this frame is already cached, and your computer will know that what's already there. What do we mean? If I hit Control C, now my entire viewer is green. The entire timeline is green. So now if I go to my info and I hit my spacebar, you'll see that I am playing at 24 frames per second, which is real time. Now, if I bring in the other element and I hit the spacebar, you will see here that it doesn't play. It will give you some red digits and it won't play real time because now everything is in green. So that's the cache of After Effects. It will automatically start caching a certain amount of caches. So that's your spacebar, that's your play button. And again, you can access that through your preview panel. And just so we can go over this, on your preview panel, you have a few different options. But let's leave this for further down the road. For now, let's concentrate here on our preview window. Your timeline will have all your layers or elements that will compose your composition. And within that, the elements and all the layer properties. But we're going to leave the layer properties for another video. For now, we're going to concentrate on the timeline. So inside our preview, we have what is known as our work area, which is this gray bar. And it can be expanded or contracted from both ends to any point or frame in time. And basically what this will do is it will concentrate your work area within that area or space. So if you're working within that time frame and you only want to have a loop within that area, you simply move these and now we will have a loop within that time frame. And if you want to go closer, we can use the time navigator. So the time navigator is this thinner gray bar on top. So if we start to make this one smaller, you can see that we will move in time, but in a smaller scale. So we will see every frame here. And we can make this, pretty much that's the smaller we can go within this clip or this composition. But or even if we want to concentrate only on that area, and we stay here. can simply work within that time frame. Another very useful option that we have here within our timeline is to rename our layers. For example, here I have an explosion, but let's say I want to duplicate it, and I just simply press Control D. Now it has explosion. If I click on the source name, they both have the same. So I'm gonna hit explosion. I'm gonna name this one explosion 2, and that was just done by hitting enter and just renaming. Now if I change it back, if I click on the source name, you'll see that it'll go back to the original source name. But the layer name, you can change the layer name, and that's how you would do it. So now that you started getting used to your timeline, go ahead and bring some more stuff inside, and I'll see you guys in the next clip.